everywhere. The weather is becoming very breezy in almost all parts of the world. Egypt, and particularly in the south, is enjoying a pleasant case of weather forecast, and in our where we can see the relics and monuments and temples. You can enjoy the sun, and you can enjoy yourself. It's beautiful out there in Luxor and Aswan. Today, like every Saturday, as we explore the history of Egypt and the history of our great pharaohs, Dr. Bassam Shamaa, the historian and Egyptologist, is going to talk to us about something a little bit different this week, which is the sense of humor by the Egyptian pharaohs. They had sense of humor, just like us, but a little bit more, and we're going to explore that particular side of the pharaohs with Dr. Shamaa this week. Good morning, Mr. Bassam Shamaa.
Good morning to you, my dear.
A very good morning to you, sir. But before going into this exciting and interesting issue of today, which you have chosen for us, at least to draw a smile onto our faces and the Egyptian faces, since you were here and you are expert whenever it comes to tourism and Egyptology, and we are in a very delicate moment, I would say a turning point. In your opinion, to what extent that the crisis we are living now is going to affect tourism, or if it's going to take time to fade away?
In the 19th, I was a tour guide, and I was going through something which we at that time liked to call the super cruise, or the super long cruise. And that was a cruise that takes our people, our visitors, our dear visitors, from Cairo to Aswan for 10 nights and vice versa, and 5 days in Cairo. So 15 days they would see things in Egypt that you would be amazed to see. Middle Egypt, for example, Asyut, Qina, mountains, rock formations. So it's a different type of tourism, plus of course the, as we like to call it, the cultural tourism, which is the monuments and the relics and everything. And I remember in the 1994, we were actually attacked. Myself and my group from Britain, we were attacked. At that time, there were people who were attacking tourists, and they were shooting at tourists and everything. After some years of that incident, happened Hatshepsut temple incident. And everybody thought, this is it, end of tourism. Amazingly enough, I worked with American groups after that very incident for 1 month solid in Luxor, a new group every 4 days. And I remember I used to take my group inside the hotel at the end of the day, and all the shops in Luxor would close after me. This is it, there is nobody else around. So what I'm trying to say here, that it can get sick, but inshallah, God willing, it will never die. That's tourism. It gets sick like any other place, but look at what happened. I don't want to compare between us and what happened in Paris, or what happened in Tunisia, or what happened everywhere. We all know that terrorism is a general thing.
Because what happened in Tunisia was not really very far away from, I mean, time-wise talking.
Yes.
It happened, and it happened in an even much worse way, and nothing happened. There wasn't a counter reaction to that.
With all respect,
maybe because maybe because Tunisia is not provoking one side of the other end that endured the crisis, which is France. I mean, so let's not get into that side. But my question to you is that why do we feel that we are in a crisis? We are a great country. We have great weather. We have almost half of the monuments in the world. And we are the source of energy, we are the source of history. It is just a phase that we're going through, and we know the reasons, because the accusations that are directed towards Egypt has no basic ground whatsoever. It's not based on any official reality. There is no conclusion for investigations, there is no final analysis or conclusion of analysis. The black boxes is with Egypt. So we know that those people want the situation to stay so. They cannot endure the fact that we are moving forward, that we are tracing, regaining our key role in the region, and all that facts.
Look, deep in our conscious, we Egyptians are very well known of our huge, gigantic, titanic love to our land. Every one of us will show that type of love and loyalty and faithfulness in the way he wants, in the way he needs, and the way he likes. I do it through my lectures to implant loyalty in the hearts of the youth. For example, you do it by job this way, and so on. Number one, we really need to change that deep conscious of ours. One, you are in no need to answer if you're not mistaken. If you are mistaken...
That's what I was trying to say.
But if you are mistaken, it's proven, please do face it.
And
Because
apologize.
facing-
Acknowledge it.
Of course.
Acknowledge it.
Of
Yes.
course.
That's a deal.
Look back again in the history. The Hyksos. See, the comparison here is quite different, but let's take it from my historical point of view. The Hyksos ruled Egypt for over 100 years. What happened after that? Was it the crack and the end of the Egyptian civilization? No.
not.
Afterwards came the new kingdom, and look what the new kingdom did. Yahmes the first, Hatshepsut, Ramessu the first,
And
Ramessu
it's
the
not
second,
Awaris, it's
Jutmosis
anymore,
the
it's
third.
the Aziz.
17 huge campaigns
Yeah.
by Jutmosis III only. Thutmose III, 17 successful military campaigns and punitive expeditions that made Egypt the greatest empire on earth at that time, area-wise and power-wise. So, but first of all, and we have to put this really clear in our mind for the coming Egypt, is we have to face our fears. We have to confess our mistakes. Our confessing our mistake is not weakness. And that, I'm not saying this to authorities only, I'm saying also in our daily life. I am sorry is a word that dropped from our dictionary. We need to put that word again back to our dictionary,
Yeah.
and it will really solve a great deal of problems.
Far from the word which I cannot find the translation in English, this معلش issue, or Sanfaria.
Exactly. There's no translation.
Hakuna Matata.
There is no
Sir?
translation for Malish.
Yep. Thank God, by the way. Mr. Bassam, whenever it comes to tourism, it's not only foreigners, it's not only tourists coming from outside
Yes.
Egypt. I think internal tourism can play such a big
Well
role
said. Well said.
today.
Well said.
And we are 90 millions. And it's now, I think, on behalf of the Ministry of Tourism, we can make offers for Egyptians, and we can make it that easy for them. No obstacles on the way, no expensive tours or internal flights or stuff like that. And by this, I think that all the hotels, whether in Sharm el Sheikh, in Hurghada, in Dahab, in Gona, I'm not going to mention all names because by this we are going to take or consume all
Exactly.
time. They are going to be 100% occupied.
Yes.
How do you see this?
Right.
And we are ready. We Egyptians
Number
are
one,
ready.
yes, number one, to get millions of Egyptians to flock all the way to places like Luxor, Aswan, cruises, Alexandria, Mars Matruh, the Oasis, Sinai, all those places. Okay, Sinai, there are spots that we're not going to touch now because the military is doing its job, so we're going to know that. Number one. And all those, we were saying that for the Minister of Tourism, so really this is the time, Mr. Minister of Tourism, you have to listen to us. You have to take the experience of the people outside the offices,
Yes.
the people who are walking down the temples and the tombs for years. Number one, the youth. I want to get the youth to go to these places. They love it. And I don't want them to go as a picnic of drums and singing only. I want them to come back with a huge cultural change, because we heard it from foreigners and tourists. They tell us at the end of our experience in Egypt, this is a life-changing trip. We heard it from people many times as a tour guide. This is a trip to a country that changes your life. So for the youth to go, I cannot put £1,000 for one night in a hotel. So number one, the youth train. And
Yeah.
I called it Qitar al-Athar.
Yeah.
We will choose one good train. We're going to decorate it from outside with hieroglyphs. We're going to make a card like what you get in London to go all over the underground in one day for, I don't know, 3 sterlings or something. You're going to put 150 pounds Egyptian, and this train will stop by all cities that has got monuments. So from Alexandria all the way until Aswan. Stop by Qina, stop by Ihnasia al-Madina, stop by Bani Suwaif, stop by Ilminia, Edfu, Isna, and so on, Komombo, Nubia, all this. And you have the train and you have the railways. So that's number one. Number two, anybody who's under 25 years of age enters the temple for free. You're going to tell me, but we need some money into the country. How are you going to do this? I'm going to tell you the British Museum is for free. The British Museum is for free. Entrance fees, none. None. To anybody. Not only to the British, to the world. What are you gaining from this? shops,
Shops.
restaurants, T-shirts, bags, entering, people coming out, putting in the glass pyramid, the small glass pyramid, some donations, because we see the service inside is excellent, right? Good bathrooms, clean bathrooms, easy things that you can do. So number one, prices. Number two, hotels, especially in Sharm el-Sheikh and in Hurghada and places like that. It is not logical to put 2,000 and 1,500 per night and you want people to go. There will be a certain caliber that can afford this, criteria to afford this. Good luck to them, great. Well, may Allah give them more, right? But I need this guy who's 15, this girl who's 16 to go spend a couple of days with her family and spend 500, 600 and back.
But Mr. Shamaa, in order, allow me to get in here because you have raised a very important issue. In order to take the people and to create that state of mind for the youth and to create that situation for Egyptians and that excellent touristic environment, you have to have roads. You have to have efficient institutions to inspect the sewage when it rains, especially in the weather. You have to have efficient governments, people who are running the institutions, and they really feel for the country. They feel loyalty. The loyalty is that you run it with commitment, with dedication, and with with alert, especially in that kind of weather and that kind of situation the country is going through. Without that, this is also connected and related and associated to tourism. So that there are other elements that are associated to tourism that we should face, because you raised the concept of, facing our fears and facing our errors and the concept of sorry. Don't you think this is also related to tourism? We should face it.
Of course, if I'm the boss, my interviews with the people that I'm going to employ into tourism is two things. Loyalty and respectable attitude. Respectable attitude means what? Means that I know that there is a big percentage of the people who visit my country who are elderly. Where is your good bathrooms?
Morals.
What else? What else are you giving them? What is the shade? In the pyramids area, if this gentleman who is 81 years of age and he came to me and he said, Bassam, I'm going to celebrate my birthday inside the pyramid. I said, sir, I already told you, and please take my words, this is a place not for the elderly. He is a dream in his life that to celebrate his birthday, and that was dangerous to enter the pyramid in this age because of high blood pressure problems, neck problems, all sorts of things, heart problems and so on. He came out, blue. Thank God he didn't die. But he went through an experience of death, this guy, for the sake of entering the pyramid in his birthday. Now, if whatever, God forbid, if ever went wrong with this guy, where is my ambulance?
Regarding sense of humor, it's a near-death experiment. I think that this can be some of our attractions whenever it comes to go inside.
Ancient Egyptians with the sense of humor, you will be amazed. I'll tell you something interesting.
Let's start.
Puns. This is what we found by the people, not the kings. So humor, this is the history of humor. Last week, we called the Egyptian pyramid, do you remember? We called it engineering the impossible. Now I'm telling you, this is a civilization of humor, of puns, of metaphors, of vulgarity sometimes, of similes. When you are making fun of similarizing something with something, but in an exaggerate way.
Just like we do today.
Sardonic attitude, caricature.
Cartoons,
things,
you mean?
Cartoons. No comment cartoons. No comment cartoons. Cartoons with no comment. I wrote you some pictures. And the interesting thing, when I was reading about this and studying it, I found out that a huge percentage of these drawings comes from people, not royalty. So their way, the Egyptian populace way of refusing what the royalty is doing, refusing what the big authority is doing. You're saying authorities should be trained, should do the sorry thing, should say it's our mistake. Well, it seems that our grandpa and grandma did that in drawing. Now, on the left-hand side of this amazing papyrus, if you like, because satire was famous in ancient Egypt.
Sarcasm?
Yeah, huge sarcasm and satirical. They called it the satirical papyrus. This papyrus is called in books the satirical papyrus. On the left-hand side, take a look. A lion opening his mouth, huge, with a big rounded eye, as if he's gazing, playing a game of intelligence. This is not chess, by the way. It looks like chess.
Yeah.
But this is a game of intelligence of some way. On his left, he's playing versus who? Versus a huge, a beautiful antelope, a gazelle, ibex, you name it. Now, take a look at what the lion, the strength, the power, opening his mouth, moving a piece, and the other beautiful, kind of weak, if you like, antelope or gazelle. By any means, I'm gonna win. That's what the lion is saying. And I'm not gonna win on a chess game or on a board game. I'm gonna eat because I'm opening my mouth. That's a translation of a guy like me when I look at this. But he left us no hieroglyphs. He left us no demotic, no hieratic. This Egyptian genius left us to translate
an open-ended.
the scene, open ending.
Yeah.
This will defeat Hitchcock big time with his opening ending. Let's take it back to the papyrus, please. On the right-hand side of that amazing scene,
the
you
same
will
picture,
notice,
please,
same
Akram.
picture, please. You will notice something else. You will notice animals.
No, not that one. The one before.
Animals who are protecting
Yes,
birds.
that's it, sir.
Here you go. On
Yeah.
the right-hand side, you can see with a stick on the shoulder and a bag on the back. We call it boga in Egypt. And that's something that's happening till today. And it looks like a hyena who's actually herding a group of goats and gazelles. Hello. That explains
no
itself.
comment.
Hyena. Let's take a look at the other photo. So hyena
next
is
one.
protecting
Next.
goats. What? Hyenas love goats.
Yeah.
Love eating goats, I
Yep,
mean.
yep.
Not love goats, love goats. If we take a look at the coming picture, you're going to notice that he also depicted and drew officials and authorities in form of mice and rats. So there is always
That one?
the
I like
official-
that
look,
one.
On that, I say this ostracon is made by an amazing character in ancient Egypt who didn't leave his name, obviously, because he would be got in no time. He's showing on the left-hand side a mouse in form of royalty with a stick of power. And it is, as a human, standing on its hind legs, and it is watching with royal attitude. Another animal on the right-hand side with a stick beating a child. So as if the child, here we are talking about something they called tomfoolery. Tomfoolery is the attitude of children. It's something well known in puns and metaphors, something called tomfoolery, one word. Foolery here is F-O-O-L. Yes. So tomfoolery, E-R-Y at the end, is how the children's attitude. Sneaky, mimicking, trying to do all sorts of conspiracies, children conspiracies to do something. Well, you are caught, my friend, and now it's time for your punishment. This is what you see in a drawing like that. But I say behind that brain of that man who did that or that lady who did that drawing, he's trying to tell us something. First of all, the authority is a mouse. And mouse is always depicted in ancient Egypt as authority. In caricature, it's always that in the form of hyenas and baboons. So we have a baboon on a military chariot wheel, trying to say something about Akhenaten, because it was found around the area. But that's not royalty. Royalty will never approve that. Let's take a look at the coming one. We have another drawing, and I noticed that the biggest percentage of these drawings were related to the days of the Ramessides. And as I was studying the Ramessides, you know there were 11 Ramesses who ruled our country.
Yep.
11 Ramesses who ruled
Yep.
our country. Ramesses III, at the end of his rule, Egypt suffered from all sorts of poorness, starvations in places, employees of the government who were not paid their salaries on time. We know that because the artisans of the king left Deir el-Medina on a strike. Became the first union strike of laborers and workers. Why are you striking? We were not given our daily or monthly salary for the last 18 days. 18 days, they were late paid 18 days. So they went on strike. So we knew that there was a sort of a shortage in the seeds. Seeds were
That one?
the salaries. Here, take a look, another time.
Seeds
Now
was
we can
also a
see
metaphor for its
Huge,
salary.
hugely metaphor here. Huge, it's clear as the sun. Look at what now the animal on the left-hand side is holding a fan. So an animal that looks like a cat who's fanning something which looks like a rat or a mouse or a mouse, and the mouse is seated over a throne of royalty. So now it's Tom and Jerry.
Our Tom and Jerry.
Our Tom and Jerry, right? We didn't use this. You're talking about using our internal tourism. Well, use your internal history.
Yep.
And
to
instead
that.
of exposing our children to Tom and Jerry,
Yeah.
expose your children to this.
I want to ask something in specific about this sense of humor. Egyptians, I mean, in the modern time, we are very much famous for black comedy and for making fun even of ourselves.
Oh, yes.
And when it comes to even the most important, distinguished comics or stars in comedy, they are going to be famous for that.
Yes.
Starting Naguib Rahani till the moment.
The dry humor.
Yep.
Yep.
Is this inherited?
Take a look at the coming picture. As you are speaking and as you are asking or commenting, take a look at the coming picture. You will notice.
This is the coming picture?
Here you go.
Yeah, okay.
This is my favorite in all the 3,000 years of whatever you can call. A cat as a human standing on its hind legs, protecting and herding ducks and geese with a nest at the top with a clutch of eggs. What? A cat is protecting geese and ducks. Cats love eating geese and ducks. So now you are looking at the first proverb that we Egyptians in our dry humor call it, preservers are stealers. Hamiha.
Haramiha.
Because the cat here is supposed to be protecting the geese and the ducks. But we all know that the cat loves eating ducks and geese.
We give the cats the storage keys, something
Here
like
is another
that.
thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Another
and
proverb
as if
to
it's
the actor.
and with the stick, it is so concerned, poor cat, it is so concerned about its populace.
But I see this as a cheetah, by the way, not
Right,
not as
but Mr. Shamaa, this brings us to another important question. How did authority regard that satirical comics?
They didn't.
Did they
I
try
tell
to
you-
ban it?
Oh,
or
I tell you, they didn't. First of all, I don't think they saw it. Personally, why? Because when those
How come they're revealed now?
When those ostrakas were found, good question. When those ostrakas were found in a pit under the ground level in Deir el-Medina. Most of them are coming from Deir el-Medina. That's where the artisans are. Those are the artisans of the king. The artisans who work for the king in the Valley of the Kings, making those amazing tombs and carving those amazing colored depicted scenes, they are in their free time sitting together having a joke about the king. Hatshepsut, the lady who lost her husband and became king, not only queen, became king. The queen who became king. If that makes any sense.
with a bird.
with the
With a
false
bird?
royal beard.
Yeah.
If you go a little bit to the mountain of Deir el-Bahri, the terrace temple of Hatshepsut, you will notice sketches made in Houston very quickly. So they are not the artistic design that you expect to see in the tombs of the Valley of the Kings. Showing a king, a lady queen, didn't put a name under it, in an indecent status with a gentleman. And that's vulgarity. That's vulgarity. But there were vulgarity as well in ancient Egypt.
As a
They
kind
they were
of
making a joke,
expressing,
of course,
and
because they
making
were
jokes
making a
or-
joke. Because we know
Yeah.
there was talks about Hatshepsut having a relation with Sininmut, her friend. Her
Have we
best
had
friend.
comics, Mr. Shamaa? I mean, have we had pictured or drawn stories for kids, for example, and whether I would be able to send a message through these pictures in a nice way for kids? I mean,
Take a look at the comment, as if you are asking question, and the coming pictures.
by the
will
way,
answer
I don't
you.
have a script here.
That's they call it ESP, extra spiritual perception. Here is just a close up of what we were saying. Hyenas, cats, you call it cheetahs. and they are herding and protecting geese and ducks. Let's take a look at the coming picture, please.
The next
Now,
one.
you will notice in some cases there was a scene that shows people working very hard, and the heat is coming out of the ovens, and they are suffering. And a child gets in, this is a drawing in ancient Egypt, a child gets in this factory, room of making liquids, and they're working hard. And this child comes in with a pot in his hand. Please look at me, I am
That
poor
one, sir?
and starving. This one is another satirical scene. Look at the mouse seated on a throne of royalty, and behind him and in front of him with fans. They are fanning the mouse. What are we talking about here? We're talking about those who are around the ruler. And always around
The
the ruler,
entourage.
there are lots of rats. And the ruler should get rid of the rats from his palace. But they will come to you, they will be friends to you, they will fan you, they will bring you cool air in the heat so that you can feel comfort. We comfort you. But are you really doing this for the sake of the land, for the sake of the king giving good decisions to the people? Or are you this type of people who are trying to get certain goodness to yourself? Here is the how I translate a scene like this. Let's go back to the child. The child with a pot asking the people who are working very hard to give him some of the liquid that he is. Give me, look at me, I'm poor. Now, in this scene, it's nothing satirical about this. But look, he made the child with a big tummy. So how come you are telling me you are poor? And how come you are telling me that you are starving? And you are coming to beg for something to drink or to eat from people who are working very hard? So here is the explanation of the scene that ancient Egypt is sending to us. Work hard if you get the health. Don't beg if you get the health. So the people who are working very hard, they say, I'm working all day. This is actually a comic. It's written up at the top of the scene. So answering your question, yes, there were types of comics. And he's saying, I'm working very hard in this heat. Get out something like getting rid of the child. You're coming while you are working hard and sweating our head off, and you're coming with a big tummy, obviously very healthy, and you are begging for food. Go and work. So here it is, another thing that is sent to 2015.
This is great philosophy.
Huge. I say civilization of humor, civilization of consciousness as well, and civilization of how can we deal with our society. There were problems in ancient Egypt, of course. There were bad people in ancient Egypt, of course. We have a man with the name of Pa Neb. I'm going to make a whole episode about him with you guys, inshallah. Pa Neb had over 30 accusations against him. I called him the biggest baltaji in history. And he was a criminal, big time.
Thug.
Oh, huge, titanic. You will never believe the 30 and more accusations of this guy.
And what
Written
happened?
and
Simply,
translated.
we have even in the guts, we have Isis, we have Set.
Here you go. And by the way, Set was not evil at the beginning. Here you go. Set was not, he turned to be evil. You're right.
Yes.
Set at the beginning was the deity of desert, the deity of dryness, the deity of thunder and lightning and crises. The Egyptian wanted to have a responsible character for any crisis that happens.
Yeah.
Right? So as if he's saying, oh, he's responsible. Well, 2015. Who's responsible for the drowning of Bahira and Alexandria? He's responsible. Oh, he's responsible. Oh, he's responsible. Well, don't diverge your responsibilities. We need to know who is responsible for that place so that we can come and tell him, knock, 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 what did you do in this crisis?
But Mr. Shamaa, what you're saying here is that we have a great alternative history also to the great legacy that we have in other spheres. When we look over the history, back in history of the pharaohs, we only talk about one sector. But today you're coming and you're talking about a huge one, a huge side that probably nobody in the world have read about.
Please, everybody.
It's great philosophy and culture.
Here you go. My philosophy to all those who are in love with our Egyptian history, there is no utopia. There is no perfect society. Ancient Egypt had the same problems, even sometimes more. We have divorces. We have people who
Occupation, war, invasion, starvation,
Right.
times of luxury, and
that's-
times of poorness.
And that's why.
Yeah.
My advice that I gave some years ago, I'm still giving to our ministers of education. Do not educate only the temple history.
That's what I'm saying
Educate
now.
this as well. Here is the gentleman who was singing. The lyrics of the song reached us. Talking about banning. If you are banning a song, what is this thing? This singer in ancient Egypt is singing the following. Those who for themselves pyramids and tombs. Look at their pyramids, it's destroyed. They can't even help themselves to protect their own tomb. Nobody came from there to tell us what happened to him. Here is a man who is in
Great
a
wisdom.
total disbelief with all this business of pyramids and temples, and I'm coming the deity of the sun, and I am the son of Ra, and all of this. He's not believing in all of this. He's saying, you are telling me you are the son of the deity, and you can't even protect your pyramid, you can't even protect your temple from being destroyed. He is shaking the very foundation of the Egyptian religious
Strongest belief
cult.
or
Yeah.
creed.
And it reached us. The lyrics reached us, which means it lived. Which means that song was sung in ancient Egypt. Now, whether the king heard about it or not, we're not sure. But obviously, it is saying, all you guys are saying about you are becoming the son of the, all of this is nothing.
But regarding these cartoons, let me return back to them. Number one, we don't have names of the artists who made it, so they were very much hidden. And they knew how to hide themselves, and this is something which is very smart. And number two, they did it only using the animals. I mean, they did not portray any of the human beings or any who can be related to any of the leaders of the pharaohs or the commanders or whoever who is a high-ranking official or a king or a pharaoh.
This is a smart comment. Yes, they did that. And yes, they were smart to do this. And finally, I will tell you, the interesting thing about having people drawing things, one, if I am in the same shoes of the king of Egypt at that time, I would allow things like this to happen. With respect and politeness, with no vulgarity, I would give the people the freedom to draw things like that. Because that's not only that you are putting metaphors or puns or making jokes or humiliating, if you like, the authorities. If you put it in a polite way, without minus the vulgarity, then this will be a way of how the populace, how yourself and myself would express a huge pressure on us. And don't gather this pressure on certain levels until it reaches a huge pyramid and then it explodes. And from there, you run and say, oh, what did I do wrong? Well, give the people the right to express themselves in politeness. In politeness, because there will be red lines and no red lines. I disbelieve in red lines unless it is one against the God or it is over the politeness level.
Right, but Mr. Shamaa, one final question.
Please.
Are you trying to tell us that all this great wisdom and philosophy that could even compete with the utmost Greek philosophy that is popular all over the world was not documented in a proper official way so that the whole world could hear about it, like they heard about the Greek philosophy?
You would be amazed to know
Phoenicians and
that jokes in history, I read a book about it in Arabic some many years ago, and jokes in history in English was made by a gentleman who's not Egyptian. Very good book about humor in ancient Egypt. Very good book. And that's it. And finally, I will tell you, the genius of the Egyptian people came very clear when two political characters in the past led the country to a crisis, to a military crisis. Second day of the crisis of the 60s, himself and the military leader gets into a meat shop. We call it, for our dear people who are not Egyptians, we call it masmat. People go to eat meat and tongue and brains and stuff like that. I don't, but people love it. So, both of them enters. So here comes the waiter. Yes, sir, your order. So one of the two authorities asked the waiter, do you have brain? Because Egyptians like eating brain. So the waiter answered and replied, no, we have tongue.
Sums it up.
Yeah, sums it up. Next week, inshallah, would you promise me to tell us more about if we do have theater there? And if we do have theater, those behind the cartoons or written or who had written these cartoons were those behind the scripts or the scenarios or the dialogues we had in comics or in one act play or full
Go and
plays?
study Egyptology, my dear.
Okay.
Go and study Egyptology. You can be a very good historian.
Sir, thank you very much for your input. Tomorrow is another day, and we hope that you are around to be always with us to tell us more secrets about our ancient Egypt.
Thank you.
Well, Egyptians, foreigners, people who are living here see the opportunity to show their solidarity with the Russians and with what happened last week when we lost those 224 people on board when the Russian plane crashed in Sinai. They flooded to the Russian embassy in Cairo to extend their condolences to the Russian people and leadership. Linda Abdulatif, our correspondent, was there and she filed this report.
We're right now in front of the Russian embassy in Egypt, where mourners are coming to pay their condolences following the Russian plane crash on Egypt's Sinai Peninsula. Now, as you can see right here, people have put buckets of flowers as a way of mourning the victims and showing their solidarity with the families of the victims. Earlier this week, Prime Minister Engineer Sharif Ismail has paid his condolences, stressing on the full coordination between the Egyptian and the Russian side to follow the repercussions of the incident. A number of foreign ambassadors have also visited the Russian embassy, expressing the mourning of their governments for the loss of the Russian victims.
It is a huge, big tragedy for all of us here. I think not only for Serbian people who share brotherly feelings with Russian people. I think the same like Egyptians, and it was very, very surprising and very, very sad event.
What could I say? It is a tragic accident that takes innocent lives of innocent people.
The government and the people of Chile are extremely concerned and wish to convey the deepest condolence to the government, people of Russia, and especially to the families and the friends of the victims. That's it. We are extremely sorry for this accident.
Foreign citizens have headed as well to the Russian embassy to place flowers and teddy bears in memory of the plane crash victims. The vice president of the Egyptian Tourism Federation also visited the embassy and praised the Egyptian-Russian strong relations. We have been in contact with the Russian tour operators and paid the condolences of the tourism sector. As for the Russian tourists who will be visiting the country, none of whom have cancelled their reservations, whether in the resort city of Sharm el-Sheikh or Hurghada. Egypt and Russia have strong relations that will not be affected by the plane crash incident.
We assure them that Egypt has been always safe and welcome.
Earlier on Saturday, the Russian airliner crashed 23 minutes after taking off from the resort city of Sharm el-Sheikh, killing all 224 people on board, a tragic incident that has caused grief among people all over the world. Linda Abdulatif, Nile TV International.
Welcome back. Right now we have with us Dr. Mohammed Nuruddin, the political analyst. Good morning, Dr. Nuruddin.
Good morning to you.
Of course, our concern today is about the latest headlines that came during the past 2 days, and also today about the propaganda that was raised around the Russian plane crash. that claimed the lives of 224 Russian brothers and sisters of ours. And to our knowledge that key figures today, politicians and social figures went to pay their condolences in solidarity with the Russian people to the Russian embassy. Your elaboration on the incident as a whole, and how does that affect the tight relation that is still maintained between the two peoples, the people of Egypt and Russia, especially that there were communication that was still ongoing between the President Sisi and President Putin on maintaining the flights and everything in a very short term after the investigation is concluded.
Yeah, first of all, I would like to convey my condolence for the family of and the victim of this tragic air accident. Secondly, I would like to say that some people in the media and some country has jumped to conclusion with no real fact assumption. Because and then they start make some announcement to advise their citizens not to come to Egypt or canceling some flights. That is really unfair, because they should have waited until they examine the black box, because that is the scientific way to go about a subject. Not to speculate and then think that that's what you think maybe has happened, and then you take a decision upon that. That's very and totally wrong.
And unprofessional, sir. One final question, sir. How do you see the performance or the reaction of the Egyptian leadership and cabinet regarding the issue?
Well, I can see from the news that the President Sisi and Mr. Putin of Russia, I think they have announced that they will resume the flight to Egypt very soon, and hopefully that will ring a bell that maybe they have some news from some fact news from analyzing what's remaining of the black box, and that is the right way to go about it. Meanwhile, I would like to advise the Egyptian, especially the people who deal with tourism, they should encourage the Egyptian to go in some interior tour to Sharm el-Sheikh and to all other places. And the government, I am waiting for the Prime Minister of Egypt to announce immediately that there will be train going, or there will be a reduction of transport for the people, for the young, especially for young people and elderly people who wants to go and see some tourism area. So that will show the solidarity for the Egyptian for the tourism in the country, which is one of the
important message we had in this very special episode of our breakfast show, sir. Dr. Mohammed Noureddin, our political analyst, thank you very much for your input and have a very good day. And before we go, there is a press conference which is going to take place today, 4 p.m. Cairo local time, by His Excellency, the Minister of Civil Aviation, Mr. Hossein Kamal, as he is going to reveal all the facts and all the results of the investigations after the special committee was there to invest and to analyze the two black boxes of the Russian plane, and with the promise of the Egyptian leadership and Egyptian cabinet that the analysis and the investigations are finished. This is going to be the very same minute that all the facts are going to be revealed to the public. By this, we come to the end of this episode of The Breakfast Show. My name is Nermeen Abdurrahman, and I had all the pleasure to have with me my dear colleague Dina Hussein for today's episode. Thank you very much, Dina.
Same here, Nermeen.
Tomorrow is another day, so see you, inshallah, with a new crew in another episode of The Breakfast Show.